The book of Ecclesiastes begins with the dreary words, "Vanity of vanities," says the preacher. Vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Well, that's not exactly the most optimistic or exciting way to begin a book, by saying everything is meaningless, everything is empty, everything is worthless. And yet, while Solomon's introduction to the book of Ecclesiastes may be a little challenging and a little almost lacking, it seems like, in the positive direction, he certainly makes up for it in the conclusion. When you get to chapter 12 and you look at the last two verses of the book, verses 13 and 14, he says, "Now let's hear the conclusion of the whole matter. Fear God and keep his commandments, for this is the whole duty of man." Some translations simply say, "This is the whole of man." One translation even says, "This is man's all. For God shall bring every work into judgment, whether it be good or whether it be evil." Now, we have to understand that throughout the book, he has talked about things that are sometimes hard to understand. And he talked about life where sometimes we have questions that we cannot answer. And he talked about life where sometimes it seems things are just simply out of our control. And just like we question those things, just like we ponder those things, just like sometimes we lament and we almost bang our heads against the wall about those things, well, Solomon was doing it too. He was living his life honestly before God. And when we read the book, it's not so much pessimistic as it is simply a reflection on how we feel sometimes when we can't answer the questions and we feel like everything's out of control. Well, he's going to end the book here by saying that there is something that is in our control. And maybe control is not necessarily even the best word. Maybe we need to understand he's going to say that the book is going to end with something that we do have a choice about. There are many things that happen to us in life that we don't have a choice about. And those are the things that bother us many times. But there is something we do have a choice about. We can fear God and we can keep his commandments. We have a choice about that. And that choice can take us in a very different direction from the negative things that have been talked about in the book. That choice can take us in a direction where we understand that God is indeed the supreme, that God is indeed the only one that we're going to answer to. That's what the very last verse is about, answering to God. But we have to understand that way that he wraps this all up is to remind us that this is what our all is about. This is what ought to define us. This is what ought to be what we are all about every day, in every way, in every thought, and every behavior. This is our all. And although the book started by saying, meaningless, life is meaningless, the book ends by saying, life has a whole lot of meaning. Here's the whole. Here's the all. Fear God. Keep his commandments.